And welcome back to another painting, another exercise. I'm not even really sure how to introduce myself when I'm doing this because I am, just having fun doing it. So unlike, I guess, more professional people who are having YouTube channels, this is just kind of a work in progress. So somehow I lost or either didn't record, or maybe I was just tired and grumpy. I didn't record the other value studies. I intentionally didn't record the more in-depth sketching for this piece. And I did that because I'd done that on the other video with Hagia Sophia. So I'm just getting up some of that graphite, and now remember this paper that I'm using is the Arches watercolor cold pressed paper. So this is the third painting that I've ever done with that type of watercolor painting, and I really do enjoy that color, that paper. It is a fun thing to work with. So with the last video, I talked about some new beginnings for the new year, knowing that the video is coming out sometime in January, so it's not a New Year's video per se, but for the month of January, in my work environment, tends to be a down month. And what I mean by that is I've come down off the holiday high, which this year is even weirder considering I'm doing Christmas Eve from home. But this month kind of ends up being a chance for me to refuel myself typically. So as this video, I'm getting it edited and things like this before Christmas and the New Year, so it's scheduled to go up. I will probably be doing other paintings. It's a very active time to do paintings for me. Paintings and reading. So I might even take a break and do some more in-depth reading during this time, because usually in the work environment it's just so much easier. So again, I haven't done a wet on wet painting for this yet. This is a dry on wet again, and I had taken some of that gray, I'd mixed up, and I had mixed in some other shades of blue that I typically don't use. The picture that I have again shows a very gray day, and I actually wanted to capture that more than I did in the Hagia Sophia painting. I wanted more of an opportunity for you to feel kind of this sense of winter, I guess I want to say, because when I was there it would have been in January. In fact, I'd have to look at the dates. It might even have been around the time this video is going to be published. And of course, remember, the first wash is never a very clean wash. We're just getting color down on the paper. So while I've been doing this first wash over, and as I told you, the building itself is kind of a blue-gray, and I may have gone in a little dark on this gray, but most of the time for doing this voiceover, I've just been watching how the water has been moving on the paper and how the color has laid down. Just enjoying the entire process of it, because while I enjoy doing it as a medium in and of itself, it's kind of the same as watching Bob Ross, where seeing it done is a little different than doing it yourself. I absolutely love doing painting, but watching how it comes together, watching how the colors layer over one another. When we talk about our lives and how our lives come together around certain themes, you don't get one color, one thing separate from another. One of my favorite lines from a movie a few years ago was, I believe, Hollywood Homicide, and Harrison Ford played the cop in it, and he's accused of commingling funds, and he goes on a rant to say that all his funds are commingled in alimony one, alimony two, with his beer money, and that's the reality of life, right? It's the reality of how we live and how our family lives and our home lives are. Is nothing remains truly separate. It's healthy if we can keep some of it separate, but I think it's also healthy to remember that some of it tends to blend. And that's very important to remember as we seek to continue to grow as individuals and as adults. So as I've done this part of the dome just now, one of the things that strikes me to remind you about watercolor is the transparency of the medium. It seems pretty self-explanatory, right? I'm showing that we paint multiple times over to darken the color, but if you look at how that dome is, there's a light gray underneath. Again, remembering that when I put down that first wash of gray, it was significantly darker, and watercolor always dries lighter than it is when it's wet. Of course, there is an exception to the rule, and that exception comes in the form of some of the cheaper watercolor paints, which I have painted with and painted some very good pictures with, such as the Crayola watercolor set. And maybe someday I'll do one to show you that you can do it, but they tend to dry in very vibrant colors, but that's because it's Crayola, right? You expect those colors to be very vibrant. On the other hand, here, we're layering those colors down and allowing the color underneath to kind of shine through. And that creates a blue-gray in the case of our domes instead of a straight blue, or having to mix blue and gray on my brush. I'm just laying down one color at a time. And, that type of thing, this is why I find watercolor very helpful for me, is being very intentional about what I'm doing when I'm doing it. It doesn't mean I don't make mistakes, as I'm sure you can see on my palette. Well, not on my palette. I'm not showing my palette this time, but as you can see on my painting itself, there are some feathered edges and things aren't probably as clean and clear as I would like. And that's okay. I mean, that's the uncontrollable nature of watercolor sometimes, especially if you rush a little bit too much. And I'm learning here, with doing a video of my painting, I feel like I want to try to rush and paint a little faster because there's only a limited amount of space on the camera I have. I don't have a video camera. I have a different kind of camera that has a limited amount of recording time. So I have to be more mindful of that type of thing. And that's all part of the process of learning how to paint. So as we come to a close to our video today, I want to thank you for joining me on this painting journey so far. And, I've been getting those deeper colors into this painting. It's going to need to dry, and I'm starting to think of some decisions I need to make as far as how I'm going to finish this painting. And we'll get into some of that in the next video. I want to remind you, if you are trying, and I don't think I've said this yet, but if you are trying to paint and you are just learning, have fun with it. And, remember, some of the things I do are fairly advanced stuff because I've been doing this for quite a few years now. And it's my pleasure and joy to be able to share it with you right now. And I want to bless you. I don't want to make you feel like you can't do this, or you will be overwhelmed by the prospect of doing this. Never feel bad about your art. Always strive to do what puts a smile on your face, and when it makes you happy, it'll make others happy too. Now, if you're a professional painter, hey, don't ask me for advice. I'll be asking you for advice. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you back with another video next week. So stay safe.